What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. We're your hosts. I'm Herwig. You can call me Happy. And of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Sonlin. We're here in Miami, and we're ready to give you the latest and greatest tokenization news. What a week. Lots of big news, billion-dollar plays, lots of investments, new tokens. Things are happening, aren't they, Kyle? How are you this week?
Herwig, I am doing great. An amazing subset of news. I wanted to thank everyone for their outpourings of support for the announcement we had last week. Thanks again to the STM team for giving me the opportunity to shill a little bit at the beginning of the show. But we're back to our regular programming, Herwig, with an amazing week. 6 years now into our show. So I think last week may have been our 6-year anniversary. And so this is now going into year 6 or year 7. I guess it would be going into year 7. So that's pretty cool.
It's a long time. We're so focused and passionate, we didn't even notice. But here we are, 7 years, and hopefully many more, 7 years more, and many more after that. But Kyle, wow, what a week in news. I want to take 1 second to say, hey, if you're subscribed here, or if you aren't, you should be. And if you're listening instead of watching, give us a 5 stars on those podcast channels. That does help us out a lot. Or leave us a comment on YouTube. Give us some feedback. We're here to work with you, keep giving you the latest and greatest news, and tell you what you want to hear from the industry. But Kyle, what do you say? Shall we do it?
Let's do it.
As we always do, we're going to start out with what we've kind of singled out as the biggest moves in the market this week. Okay, there are some huge announcements out of, I think it's like over 20 or 30 headlines to cover this week. We found a couple big ones that stood out to us, right? And Kyle, I'm going to start off with the sort of biggest by number here. Grove, which is part of the whole like Sky Maker ecosystem, has officially allocated $1 billion into Janus Henderson's Anemoy, their AAA CLO strategy, as we can see written out here, the JAAA. But essentially, Grove has announced also the launch of an institutional grade credit infrastructure protocol. And this allocation here starts off with Janus Henderson's fund. And I don't think we've ever heard of a out the gate $1 billion allocation like this, but this is where we are. This is, a big reason why BUIDL has skyrocketed up because of the whole Grand Prix and partnership there. You can see sort of Sky and their massive ecosystem is starting to throw real money around into RWAs. And not to toot my own horn here, Kyle, but this is exactly what I said, I think at the beginning of the year, if not last year, which is, this is what I meant by yield coins are going to catch up to stable coins very quickly, because we all want to see on-chain reserves. We want to see an infrastructure that is using this efficiency and is transparent. So naturally, you're going to see a lot of credit infrastructure, stable coin infrastructure, and everything else move on-chain and have transparency. And so this is what I love about seeing this happen, Kyle. We're going to see many more large allocations, I think, maybe not too many that often, but you're going to see more like this. What do you think?
No, I agree with that, Herwig. For anybody that's wondering where this money is coming from, like me, right? Like, where is this $1 billion coming from? I actually have a theory, and this isn't backed by anything, but this is just an idea. So with all of the institutional excitement around DeFi and around these types of products, as well as interest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of these treasury products that keep coming out, or even stable coins, I think there is this level of, hey, if I'm an institutional asset manager that has 10 billion in US treasuries, why would I not move $1 billion of that treasury allocation into a digital treasury allocation, just so that I can get that hard work out of the way, so that if I want to do anything in the digital ecosystem, now I have a much easier pipeline to do it. I think that that's actually where a lot of this is coming from, is from whether it's your Franklin Templetons or your Wisdom Trees, or potentially a new type of firm that we haven't necessarily covered a lot in the press that is interested in getting into this space, that I think is bringing capital and liquidity into the tokenized ecosystem, but without actually having to deploy it into crypto or digital assets or into any risk on type of infrastructure, even operationally, and instead keeping it in these vaults where it's still getting the same exact yield that they were expecting from their treasury product. They just have a little bit more flexibility with it now. That's what I think a lot of this is coming from.
You got to put yourself on chain. It's as simple as that. That's right. That's why people want, and put money on chain, put their dollars into stable coins. And it typically doesn't necessarily go back out into money that often. It stays as a stable coin. People like to stay on chain because it's a better version of money. And of course, RWAs are all a part of that beyond just cash. So Kyle, I completely agree with you. So here we are to seeing many more billion-dollar movements, big treasury movements, big allocations, big infrastructure build-outs that leverage RWAs as part of that in a very, very big way. And more innovation in the space, Kyle. I would call this innovation. This next one by Republic. They were getting into the rockets game, if you will, with the popular tokenization of SpaceX, but everybody's kind of got like a different model. And this is the first time I've seen a mirror token. So the RSpaceX token, which, do your own research. You got to go check it out. But essentially, it is a unique exposure, I believe, structured essentially like a debt product that gives you the payout, if you will, when SpaceX, say, IPOs or if they were to be acquired, or something like that, right? But most likely an IPO. Eventually, when that payout happens, your SpaceX tokens will get paid out as well. So it's a very interesting way to get exposure into SpaceX. It, of course, will be tokenized, and it's Republic, so it's Reg CF. So anybody can participate in that, which I love. I think they're doing the maximum up to 5 mil, I believe. So it's great. I always love Republic. They're always tokenizing these novel and kind of forward-thinking concepts, and we know their relationship with INX. So however long it might take, maybe a year or so, but maybe, just maybe, those SpaceX tokens might trade one day. Which
I think it's a really smart model. It's pretty cool. The type of debt convertible note, like a safe note style of instrument for these shares, I think is a really great way to get around some of those restrictions of moving the shares. I think it's a fascinating model. I'm pretty psyched for Republic that this is an avenue they're going to pursue, because I think it really could work. And so that's all exciting. Reg CF, potentially an interesting new avenue to bring Reg CF a more relevant use case than what we're seeing. And the name being called Mirror Shares is funny, just because Mirror was that DeFi protocol that used to do tokenized stocks on the Solana blockchain back in the day when we used to track all that stuff. So it's a funny callback to the old guard, if you will. If anybody remembers those 2021, 2022 episodes where we would talk all about tokenized stocks, Mirror was one of the protocols that I would use to capture some of that data. So interesting stuff there.
We had the data. We millions of daily trading volume, and what was commonly the number one product, Grayscale. Interesting.
That's right.
Now we're going to see these markets come back online. I'm super excited about that. This is one of those massive mainstream adoption movements, I think. If you see, we're seeing companies like Coinbase. We're exploring tokenized stocks. Kraken, we're going to work with Bakkt, who's already been tokenizing stocks. You see Swarm. You see many other players coming out. Robinhood saying we're going to start in Europe with tokenized stocks. And guess what? It doesn't stop Dinari, who's been one of the leaders. We announced a large funding round earlier this year, I believe. They have now officially gotten the license, folks. Kyle, the license to actually tokenize stocks in the U.S. Woo! From the SEC, from SEC and FINRA, the ability to tokenize stocks for U.S. Investors is amazing, because anyone who's been watching the show, and Kyle, I've always been complaining that it's like, man, I'm so upset that us as Americans who are supposed to have the best access to the capital markets in the U.S. are going to have a inferior version to it, because now Europeans are going to get 24/7 trading, collateralization, and all these cool on-chain capabilities. And here we are stuck on 1970s rails.
Right.
Thank God for Dinari. Good for you, leading the way. Also a great sign for regulators on how they're approaching this. They see the potential. They're green lighting it. I'm stoked. I'm ecstatic. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a big win. More broker dealer licenses coming into the industry is generally a good thing. I still think there's a lot of demand for broker dealer co-syndication. I think that we saw in the first iteration of these licenses there was a lot of competition between brokers, and so hopefully Dinari can collaborate with some of the other players in the space to pool that liquidity together, so we can really start building liquid products that are competitive to the traditional markets. That's going to be the big thing to watch.
That's going to be the big thing to watch for sure. And we will be tracking it and keeping you updated here on the show every week as this new segment of the market reemerges. And speaking of, another SEC registered offering is coming to the market, UP.xyz, which is actually a NASDAQ company. They're tokenizing via the new opening bell platform that we announced from Superstate. So Superstate is getting into now tokenizing, stocks, public companies, and bringing them available to the masses through their platform, directly through their rails, right? I think you can go as far as to say it's like native, essentially. But this is, as far as I know, I believe maybe they had one offering to start, but this is one of the first or second offerings to hit this opening bell platform. So it looks like the wheels are turning. We're going to start seeing listings come to market here. So very interesting. Superstate moving beyond their suite of products that have had a lot of success and put them on the map. Obviously, Robert Leshner, a legend from the crypto space, crushing it now with Superstate. But opening bell, this is like the platform that you're going to start hearing the name a lot, not just Superstate's products, but the opening bell platform to go get in on some of these cool listings, I think. Kyle, what are your insights here?
Yeah, UP.xyz is a Solana treasury company, as you said. They are based in Florida, so that's pretty cool. Shout out to a Tampa-based company for bringing this to market. And another crypto treasury company, there's been a variety, let's call it a spectrum of perspectives on these crypto treasury public market vehicles and whether that could theoretically be the downfall of this bull market eventually, if some of these companies start to get over leveraged on their crypto positions and then are forced to sell. So that'll be something interesting to watch. I don't feel like we're necessarily there yet in the market cycle. It doesn't feel like the market's incredibly over leveraged. I know that at one point people felt Saylor was over leveraged with MicroStrategy, but I haven't heard quite as much about that recently. I guess as Bitcoin's price has held, theoretically, if it continues to go up, that will be good for Saylor. But it'll be interesting to see for some of these other shitcoins that don't have quite as much staying power, right? Okay, Solana has done well and has survived a market cycle, but it's certainly no Bitcoin, right? So what happens if these things go up and they go down? How does it impact the public market vehicle? That being said, as we've talked about a lot, Herwig, on this show, as well as other podcasts or X spaces I've done throughout my time here, I'm a big fan of public market companies. I think that the public market should have access to these equities. I think that retail should be able to get involved in these spaces. And I think that the companies should at some point have to publish their financials and be accountable to regulators. So I think that what Superstate's doing in allowing for tokenization and public market listing is a really cool 50-50 split there of making both wins happen. And I think drives more public market listings. And from my perspective, that's a huge win regardless.
Oh, yeah, totally agree with that. And I think that's what we can expect to see. And dude, the team over at Digital Asset, Yuval and Eric and the whole organization dropping some huge news this week. A monster funding round, $135 million, primarily, for strategically for their Canton network, of course, their privacy-focused enabled blockchain for institutions that's bringing on, as we've heard from Yuval here directly on the show, hundreds of billions of RWAs onto their chain for real. And doesn't surprise me to see names like BNB Paribas, Citadel Securities, Circle Ventures, actually, but the DTCC, which is a pretty big deal, IMC Trading, and led by none other than DRW Venture Capital and TradeWeb Markets, as well as a number of other players. Paxos.
And Goldman was also in on that round too. So
City Ventures, these are, I mean, they just went around to everybody and said, hey, put some money in, it sounds like, because they all did. That's a huge amount of money. This continues the trend, Kyle, that we've seen all year of now seeing very large funding rounds for the companies that have established themselves in the RWA space. This is not a hypothetical thing. We have announced from the very beginning in 2018, 2019, where we were tracking the billions of dollars in VC that was going into these companies. These were small rounds, multi-million-dollar rounds, maybe 8-figure rounds. We've come to the time where we're going to start seeing 9-figure rounds for RWA infrastructure, and I don't think Circle is hurting that at all with their success. And people are starting to open up to what's happening with this technology and what's happening to finance. And Canton is clearly a player to watch as a result of this funding round, no doubt, on top of their excellent institutional network and clientele that they already have. So good on them, Kyle. I got to give it to them. That's just, I love to see that.
Yeah, no, it looks like Canton's really putting that focus on privacy with respect to financial transactions. So it makes sense why all of these different banking institutional counterparties would want to support this type of thing. It I think backs up our thesis that these different companies don't want to issue tokens on each other's blockchains. They know how competitive their at least previous industries have been consistently in competitive information. And so building a network that allows them to transact seamlessly without having to share everything going on underneath the hood clearly presents a really unique opportunity here for Digital Asset and Canton Network, who has done a good job of kind of reaching that market penetration and that orbit velocity, it seems like, in the institutional side. Between them and Ondo, which has their own kind of solution, and then Securitize that announced that L1 effort. It'll be interesting to see if the L1 wars rage on the institutional side.
Oh, I don't doubt it will. And then you've got the sleepers among them themselves, like JP Morgan and others that are, of course, building out their huge infrastructure. So with that is the market movements, folks. Huge headlines, but it doesn't end there. There's a lot more happening in the RWA space, and we got you covered, so don't go anywhere. Let's go on with the show. If you've been keeping up with us, you definitely already know about the RWA Foundation, our initiative to bring together the industry and create adoption for RWAs, focusing on, of course, tackling the challenges that are, preventing mass adoption in the first place, as well as to bring together the largest community of crypto natives and people in general focused on RWA. So we're going to be doing that by launching the WallyDAO. We've got some pretty big announcements coming up on that soon, including a new batch of partners joining the foundation. So again, if you're an active player in the space, reach out, apply. We would love to see and get you involved as a member to join our efforts here. But now we're all focused on new features for Wally, and of course our plans. Our reveal will come soon. Hang in there about just how exactly you'll be able to participate in our DAO. We're not just going to put it out there. We're definitely not going to sell it. This is by the industry, for the industry, no VCs. We are doing this to support RWA. So you better believe what we're going to do is going to do exactly that for our launch efforts. So again, stay tuned for details. But for now, we've got our RWA watering hole every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We are bringing together some of the biggest leaders and educators and CEOs from the space for a nice little X Spaces hang. We're doing it all the time. You probably see Kyle in them all week long. You probably see us and others. We got Mondays on Chain by STM, but the RWA watering hole is just something special. It's a time for the herd to come together, and the herd pulls up for real. I love to see it. So check out our website, WallyDAO.xyz. We do have our white paper live. We have our Telegram that's active that you can come pop in, say hello, come join the passionate chat. And with that, stay tuned for more. Tap in. Let's keep growing the whole space together. Trunks up, as we like to say. Let's get to the rest of those RWA headlines. All right, Kyle. It was a big week, and I asked for it because I said last week and earlier, I think on X Spaces on Mondays on Chain, I was like, look, the summer, as much as you love it, it's not going to slow down for RWAs. Unfortunately, the headlines are going to keep on coming. The tokenizations are going to keep on coming. I'm going to start it off with some big announcements here, Kyle. Falcon X has officially joined the Link Network as a launch partner. So the Link Network continuing to bolster a large set of big name brands across crypto exchanges, across, folks like T0 and other brand names like US Bank playing roles into this whole thing. The Link Network is clearly becoming a powerhouse for a settlement, all underpinned by an ARCA yield fund, yield coin fund, as we like to say, a treasury product. So check out Link Network on that. But more news, Wormhole is now powering Ripple interoperability. So I believe Wormhole is known for coming out of the sort of Solana ecosystem, and now they provide interoperability for a bunch of RWAs, starting with the securitized ecosystem amongst many others. And now they've gone in and tapped into the Ripple ecosystem, which is, of course, massive. And we're seeing a lot of adoption around the XRP ledger for tokenizations and all kinds of RWAs. Interoperability is going to be critical. We've talked so many times on the show about how RWAs are going to be multi-chain. So Wormhole quickly building a name for itself as a provider for interoperability with RWAs here. And NASDAQ making a big announcement, okay? They facilitated an end-to-end margin and collateral workflows on the Canton Network, who we just talked about raising 135 mil. Well, it's because of moves like this, I think. This is working with NASDAQ Calypso, which is their technology platform for managing risk, margin, and collateral, which they're now upgrading to make automated 24/7 margin and collateral management. And this is, of course, critical on the street for financial institutions. So this makes a lot of sense. It looks like they're tapping into blockchain from Canton to leverage this and upgrade, if you will. And that's a big move coming from NASDAQ, of course. Davis Commodities, another NASDAQ-listed company, getting into the game of tokenization, launching a digital treasury strategy and an agriculture tokenization platform. A bunch of it sort of going through a $30 million raise across those different buckets, Bitcoin reserves, tokenization platforms, and cybersecurity and other infrastructure needs. So another player to the game. This is not going to stop. It's a massive opportunity. It's a software need across all asset classes and applications of finance. So you're going to see more and more companies enter the space like Davis Commodities. Welcome. Plume is once again in the news, as they are every week. They have partnered with BlockSense to basically an oracle to bring in price feeds for a lot of their RWA products. And another player coming into the space, focusing on pre-IPO companies called Jarzy, officially out of stealth with a pre-seed round to boot. Breyer Capital, I believe, leading that pre-seed round. Very exciting. More tokenization companies are now going to help tokenize trillions of dollars. We're going to need them. Kyle, any thoughts before we move on to some of the token offerings about any of these announcements that we've heard this week?
Yeah, well, obviously, Canton integrating with NASDAQ is really cool. I'd be fascinated to better understand exactly, where this is useful for traditional traders and investors. I think that this is a great article, and it does detail how some of the margin and collateralization stuff maybe is a big key. But I'd love to better understand exactly where they think this use case is, and to better understand exactly how that works, because it's really, really interesting. And some of the other ones are all fascinating. I think you did a good job breaking them down. Shout out to Jarzy for closing a pre-seed round. That's a big one. We love funding announcements around here.
We do love funding announcements around here. Congrats to them. We also love token announcements because that's the real RWA activity, isn't it?
That's right.
And there were a bunch of them this week. Bailey Gifford issuing a fully tokenized fund in the UK. So we talked about how Europe is being put on the map this year, and the UK itself has its own sandbox. The regulators are friendly. There's licensed players like Archax and players like Aberdeen and Calistone making active moves, and many more. And now you got Bailey Gifford doing a fully tokenized fund for a bond fund. That's on chain. Love to see it. Biddle and Athena, they are now swappable 24/7 using Securitize. So that's their USD TB that I'm talking about, of course. Makes a lot of sense given that Securitize and Athena are already working together on their Converge platform. You're going to see a strong relationship between these two companies moving forward, obviously. KFW, who has been an active bond issuer, has not stopped with another tokenized bond. Digitally native on SDX, 140 million Swiss dollars. So I don't know exact translation. It's around maybe even a little bit more. So that's another great example of bond offerings are here. They're going to be very common. They're a little bit of a sleeper. Most people don't talk about it. There's not as much excitement behind bond activity, but you got to realize that there are billions, tens of billions of bonds that have been tokenized out there across the spectrum, corporate, municipal, everything. Next up, we saw MTCM securitization architects tap Tokeny, okay, for what they're calling a dual format issuance. But what they mean by that is essentially being able to go from traditional into digital, into a token. So we've seen this before from providers in the past. This is for if you have traditional investors that maybe don't want to yet tokenize and stay in a traditional format, or for those who want that optionality, maybe there's a need to go back into a traditional format. Maybe a buyer wants it in a non-tokenized format. Well, Tokeny is making that happen. And we announced, I think last month or so, that Tokeny was majority share acquired by Apex. So they are not just a startup tokenization OG company. They now have big backing from one of the largest fund admins in the world. Moving on, we also have Matrix Stock expanding their portfolio, their catalog, if you will, now into silver, platinum, and palladium. So if you're interested in those metals, it's all over on Matrix Stock. So we love seeing that kind of activity. I know Kyle gets excited about commodities, so I know he's probably going to hear something about that in just a second. But we can't not mention the fact that Spice VC has managed to execute a third investor payout. Spice VC clearly being and continuing to be one of the leading VC funds in the blockchain space in general, obviously in the RWA space. And you love seeing investors get paid, especially thanks to a tokenized fund. So congrats, Spice VC. Keep it up. You're crushing it. And of course, we're proud, full disclosure, that they are investors into STM's crowdfunding round that we did with Securitize. So we love to see it. Keep it up, Tal and Spice VC team. Kyle, what do you got for me on these token details here?
I mean, Tal Alyashiv is just such a beast, isn't he? I mean, Spice VC has been such a great performing security token. They've done it the right way. He's a very, very thoughtful guy and has made some fantastic investments in the industry. I think it's just wonderful. So want to shout them out there. Of course, you called it on the commodity side. That gets me excited. I just think that there's a lot of room to run in that space. And so because of that, those are my two highlights. Silver, platinum, and palladium are cool. I actually, as we've talked a little bit about, I'm really excited in the commodity sector about trade finance, which is really private credit. We've seen a lot of private credit interest in the tokenized space over the last year or two. And I think that backing private credit with real physical commodities is a breakout use case, and it will be probably the biggest use case in my opinion in 2026, if not a little bit earlier. And so I love that. I think that tokenizing the spot commodity itself, we're still a little bit away from that, from it being a breakout use case. I think that the demand might be relatively tepid for a tokenized Palladium token or something like that today. That being said, I think these are tremendous instruments, and companies like Ostium that are trading tokenized perps of commodities are doing millions plus of trading volume. So I think there is a lot of space to run in this industry. So shout out to Matrix Stock for making that happen.
No, that's huge to Matrix Stock, and man, you make me think. Why don't we get Tal on the show? Let's see if we can get him on for some insight and commentary next week. So let's do exactly that. But moving on, I want to single out this. It was the only vault news, but I do want to single out this Clearpool Port announcement. So Port is the first vault infrastructure. It's the first sort of product infrastructure in the Ozean ecosystem, which is, of course, the blockchain by Clearpool, which is now done hundreds of millions, close to $1 billion in RWA activity. And they're launching what they call 3 ETPs that are essentially 3 vault products, all in one token using the Port USD to get access to it, I believe. So go check out the details on that. But this is, again, the wheels are turning. A lot of the infrastructure that's been talked about and announced in the last couple of years is now coming live. And this is going to be a big deal. I'm excited to watch this vault activity, as everybody knows by now. And if you don't, you should. I am just the biggest fan of vaults. I think it's the unlock for RWAs. There's a lot of other amazing things, of course, that are happening to the space, but I really think vaults have the potential to change everything. Got to keep a close eye on that. So good stuff there. Don't get confused. They are not exactly exchange traded products as we are describing them here. So, go do some more info on that whole research on that whole platform. But moving on, we also have a lot of stablecoin news. Fiserv, pretty big deal, as they are huge here in the United States. Over 3,000 regional banks and over 10,000, use them basically as banking infrastructure, servicing 6 million merchants, 10,000 financial institutions. They are enormous. I think it's like almost 20 billion in revenue that they've done, and they are tapping Solana for tokenized deposits. So, you could say it's the stable coin race, but they're approaching it, as we recently talked about last week. For anyone who missed last week's episode when JP Morgan announced their deposit plans, their JPMD token plans, expect to see a lot more tokenized deposits coming to market. And it seems to be a favorite, of course, not surprisingly, for a lot of the banking infrastructure out there. So,
but an important distinguishing factor, like tokenized deposits are not stable coins. Like a tokenized deposit does not have to have necessarily $1 of cash deposited in an account. It's a deposit of assets. So it could be long dated assets. Like, again, think about Silicon Valley Bank back in the day. They went under because they technically were backed their customers' deposits with assets, but they weren't liquid enough assets. And so I'm not as bullish on tokenized deposits, not only because of the fact that they don't actually own $1, but because I do also think that there's a lack of fungibility between tokenized deposits, in the sense that different banks might have different standards for those things. And that now kind of calls into question the trust factor of like this tokenized instrument. So I think tokenized deposits are cool and obviously make the most sense if you're a bank, because you might have illiquid assets that you'd love to be able to price at $1 and transact with at $1's value. But be a little bit skeptical of tokenized deposits, solely because of the fact that I don't believe that they're always necessarily short-dated treasuries backed. Theoretically, they could be. It's almost like circle versus a square versus a rectangle. Like not all rectangles are squares or whatever. It's the same kind of thing with deposits. Tokenized deposit could be a short-term treasury, which then you're good, but it also could be something else, which is a little bit more, should be discounted, I guess, to some degree to account for the risk.
No, I think it's a really great distinction you made that people need to be aware of as these products, if you will, are going to come to market.
Yeah. And you're collateralizing a tokenized deposit with something else. It's like, that's not necessarily $1. Like,
and again, we're going to see real adoption by this. We just saw another big announcement, MasterCard, saying that they're expanding their stablecoin partner network, Paxos and their USDG, the global dollar network. They're also integrating Fiserv's FIUSD tokens that we were just talking about. PayPal's in there, and of course, Circle is already integrated with 3 different services now. They offer MasterCard Move for cross-border payments. If you didn't realize they're doing that, we've talked about the multi-token network, the MTN, which is essentially programmable payments and stablecoin settlement infrastructure. And they have MasterCard One Credential, which is supposed to be a simple way for a flexible way to spend both fiat and stablecoin balances through a single product, according to this announcement. And Fiserv is looking to be a first adopter of that one. So MasterCard making moves in a stablecoin game. It's just like this is the year of the stablecoin for real. There's so much happening. I love to see it. It doesn't end there. Particular actually released an amazing stablecoin report that you can go check out. They're actually talking about the impact it has on the U.S. Treasury market, a lot of the alignment and the philosophies that we've been talking on the show for quite a while now about why the U.S. government, from the Fed to Trump and everybody in between, are now embracing the stablecoin generation, if you will. And Plume is now supporting Agora's AUSD to bring in more DeFi capabilities through their RWA ecosystem. And now Hong Kong also has new stablecoin rules, and they are planning to tokenize bonds. So Kyle, stablecoin game, crazy. Any commentary?
The only commentary I'll have is like slightly contrarian. The stablecoin market is so hot right now. And like every VC and everybody's talking like they're all investing in stablecoin companies. And I just don't exactly know what a stablecoin company actually means. Like I get it. Like issuing a stablecoin is a profitable idea because you don't have to give the treasury yield. But it's kind of like taking a Bitcoin treasury company public in the sense that it's cool, but like there's kind of maybe a little bit of a cap on that, and especially with stable coins where it's unlimited USD, as opposed to, at least with Bitcoin, you're kind of betting on that asymmetric upside, which I think is pretty cool from a venture betting perspective. You're just going to use the capital markets to do it. In the stablecoin space, I feel like that you saw Circle's IPO absolutely went gangbusters. I'm just not totally sure where the string goes. And maybe that's just me not seeing something. We're working on a stablecoin solution and hopefully can work with a bank to do it, because the Genius Act allows you to do some interesting things if you're a bank issued stablecoin that's treasury backed. I've talked to some of our clients about that. I think that's really interesting from a collateralization and lending perspective. But if you're like an infra provider in the stablecoin space, I'm just not sure exactly where all that fits in. So maybe a bit tangential, Herwig, but that's a trend that I've seen so much over the last year, and I just don't quite get it personally.
Yeah, no, I think we'd have to take up a whole nother 30 minutes to get into a stablecoin debate. And you know me, I'm like the number one advocate for yield coins. It's like if
right.
I can have a product that does virtually the same thing as a stable coin, but it's making me money constantly, why would I ever accept a stable coin? I think stable coins should be dead in the future. But no need to get into this debate today. We're going to leave our wonderful and beautiful listeners and viewers here with a report they can go check out. You can go to Ledger Insights. They put out a bunch of great news and headlines on the space, some great reporting. But in this case, it's a report by the European Fund and Asset Management Association talking about tokenization focused on the buy side. They say it's a buy side practitioner's guide. So asset managers and really anyone, I think, who's interested, again, should be checking this out. They are trying to urge regulators in Europe, to put in some clarity to get more fund tokenization active. The same exact rally cry that the UK regulators and government said, and exactly what we're seeing here in the US and globally. This is just going to be the future of finance. It's going to be a huge edge. It's obvious now. The cat's out of the bag. And that's all the news we got for you. But that's not the end of the show. We've got one more big thing to do, don't we, Kyle?
Matt, we do. All right, Herwig, we are not done with the show. That was a great one. I think we crushed it. But it is time for what is the most tranquil, happy, peaceful moment of the show, where I can lull you into allure, into the sweetness of my voice as we talk about the most important award in the industry. And of course, that is the Company of the Week announcement. This is where Herwig and I take two companies. We get to give them a special shout out for doing something never seen before, industry changing, groundbreaking, paradigm shifting, Nobel Prize worthy. Of course, it also aligns them with the Company of the Year nomination. Every year we like to pick just one company out of those 100+ choices that we get to make gets to win the Company of the Year award, where we pick one that made the biggest moves in the industry. BlackRock, JP Morgan, Securitized, T0, Republic. You could join the ranks of these incredible companies this upcoming holiday season if you win Companies of the Week one time throughout the year. So with that, Herwig, I do really want to hear who your Company of the Week is for STS episode 290.
Pretty amazing Hall of Fame we got. It's an absolute
5 for 5, really. Not bad.
It's an illustration. It's the history.
INX as well. I forgot INX for a second. I apologize.
Remember, we're now 7 years.
Who got acquired by Republic. So technically, Republic is almost by acquisition a two-time company.
We'll have to go to the refs and figure that one out and get the official. But I am excited to bring back a repeat winner. Okay, because this company has been making moves in the space. They've been on, as a result of that, have been Company of the Week before. Usually a good sign for potentially becoming the Company of the Year. And I think they'll have to keep making some mega moves as a result of this to pull it off. But it is possible. And that's why I'm excited to give my Company of the Week to Dinari this week for episode 290, going into 7 years of reporting for 2025 in the running. Dinari, awesome work. It's not just the concept of tokenizing stocks and talking about it. It's not the idea of offshoring it and going abroad. They did the work. They already were active with their RWA tokenization of stocks platform. But now they've got a broker-dealer license. That just makes them just a notch more legit. They're going after it, tokenized stocks for U.S. investors. So I'll tell you, I absolutely plan to check this platform out and use it. So very, very cool stuff. Really, really awesome to see. Also, Dinari is an RWA Foundation member, so we're happy to see that as well. But congrats to Gabe and team. You are my Company of the Week. Good stuff, Dinari. I'm excited to see what you do with this license.
Shout out to Dinari. Makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great winner, Herwig. Great people there. Awesome company. They're working hard. They've had some successful fundraisers and now license approvals.
Yeah, they're coming up against some big names out there that have been talking about tokenizing stocks. Just about every big crypto exchange, and even some of the old guard fintechs like Robinhood. But Dinari, don't sleep on them. They're making moves. Congratulations. But they're not the only winner this week. You, of course, Kyle, also get to choose, and I'm excited and dying with anticipation to see who you got this week.
It is my honor to be a nominee, to be a part of the committee, the election committee, if you will, of the Company of the Week. I take that very seriously. And some days I have a tough choice to make. And so for one of the few times, I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to Spice VC, because Tal Eliashiv, great guy, one of the earliest pioneers of the security token game. He has won Company of the Week before for actually doing this exact news. I'm pretty sure I gave him company of the week last time he did an on-chain dividend of Spice VC shares. So it didn't quite make the cut this time solely because I've done that before. But it was an honorable mention because he's a great guy. He put his money where his mouth is. He also invested in our crowd fund when we really needed it, which meant a lot to us. But more importantly, he's an incredible venture capitalist who has built a fantastic portfolio that has now done 3 distributions of a, tough vintage year, and has been a super, super successful fund that publishes their net asset value online. You can view it like they are transparent. And he has crushed it. And there's not that many venture capital fund managers that can say that. He's definitely a top 10% fund manager, if not way higher than that. I just don't know the stats. But Tal has done such a great job. So that's my honorable mention. My real winner this week is a new entrant to the space. And I could be wrong here, Herwig. I think you actually may know slightly better than I do. But this company may be the first public company with a real focused, dedicated business model now, according to their new pivot, of tokenizing securities and real world assets. So my company of the week is Davis Commodities. They are a publicly listed on NASDAQ company that is launching an agricultural commodities tokenization platform as their primary business model. They are also going to be buying a lot of Bitcoin. So it's a Bitcoin holding play, which gives them a little bit of price rip. I guess maybe helps lock in their valuation just because this is a pretty venture-y style of play to do the agricultural tokenization side. So they're tapping into the Bitcoin liquidity thing on the other side. But this is a NASDAQ publicly listed company that their primary business model, according to their press release and according to their new fundraise, provided that it works, is going to be focused on agricultural commodities tokenization. And I think that that's a pretty cool milestone. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe some other companies have kicked around the tires here. But if it works and if they can at least bring a product to market, it would be pretty cool to have a publicly listed company whose primary focus is in our RWA tokenization industry. So for that reason, I wanted to shout out Davis Commodities.
That is such a great choice, Kyle. I'm not sure if they're the first publicly listed company focused on tokenization, because there are, I feel like, a few other.
Yeah, there's probably a few others, but at least I want to give them a shout out for doing some cool stuff.
But they're absolutely doing some cool stuff. Absolutely. I mean, again, not just to focus on tokenization, but Bitcoin reserves. Kind of honestly, this whole episode, I've been thinking of that. What is it? That Zoolander movie where Will Ferrell's like, it's like so hot right now, Hansel. Or whatever. It's like that's exactly what Bitcoin treasury companies are right now. And seeing that combo as a publicly listed play. It's classic Wall Street right there. So love to see it. Great choice. Congratulations, Davis, on the Company of the Week award. Welcome to the ranks of the winners. And Kyle, that's our show, isn't it? Any final news? Any closing announcements? Any follow-up updates on your big $75 million oil and gas deal that you announced last week? Anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with before they head off into the amazing weekend?
Hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. Definitely hit me up, globalsettlement.com, if we can help on the commodity side. Or we do have app.globalsettlement.com. Check it out. It's a full tokenization studio. So we have some of the raised finance ferro-titanium deals on there. We've got some other great products that are live on the tokenization studio, helping source some distribution for issuers. So if you're an issuer in the tokenization space, hit me up. And on the other side, expect some cool press releases coming soon. I got a couple more in the pipeline that are, they're always 2 to 3 weeks delayed. So expect another one coming in July.
Well, I have no doubt about that. I'm excited for it. And of course, folks, again, tap in. We've got all the latest and greatest news, a really great newsletter that you can go sign up for at strmarket.com or newsletter.stm.co. You've got our new beta version at stm.co, where we've got the most data anywhere on tokenized assets available for you to go check out. And as well, of course, Monday's on chain, the RWA watering hole on Thursday. We're rolling up the X spaces again, and people are showing up, and I love it. So thank you for all of those that do. And of course, we do these every Friday. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you tap in, and we'll catch you again next week. Have a great weekend and happy tokenizing. Bye.